Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and some cards using some more of the Altenew March release, specifically the Craft Your Life project kit. Large florals. What else can I say? I love them. I love them. So I combined them with one of the die sets that works very well with this and did just ink blending and use the embossing folder. In fact, I used like everything from this kit, the stamp set, the stencils, the embossing folder, the wafer dies. Had a lot of fun and made a couple cards. And like always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links, so that just means that if you click on one of my links, end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps my heaters running, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's get right into making these cards. Okay, so this is the Craft Your Life project kit called Flower Arch. So you get this big 6x8 stamp set with that lovely large floral, bunch of sentiments. There's an embossing folder, which does this really cool like stone wall with the door in it. And then the coordinating die set die cuts the large floral stamp, some of the sentiments, and then there's an intricate die that mimics the scrolly ornate portion above the door. And then the stencil set, which does all of the floral and greenery stamp, as well as a stencil for that embossed door embossing folder. So I'll be using all of that. So I started with some smooth white cardstock, just my go-to Simon Says Stamp smooth white cardstock. So because this is the cardstock I use, I find that most black inks do smear on it. Now, could I just switch back to my Nina Classic Crest and probably resolve those issues I have? Yeah, but I like this cardstock. So I just heat emboss the inks. I've shown this in a ton of videos. It's just what works. So I took 2 sheets of cardstock, like 8.5 by 11, and I'd cut them in half. So these panels are 5.5 by 8.5. Because this large floral, when I like held it over the cardstock, I was like, ooh, I can get 2 per like sheet of cardstock. So I cut down my cardstock. I used my anti-static powder tool on it. And then I'm just putting the cardstock there in my stamp wheel. And then I lined up my stamp. And I'm stamping this big floral with Altenew's Obsidian pigment ink. And then I am coating that with Wow's Clear Matte Dull embossing powder. I've talked about this embossing powder many times. You could use just regular clear embossing powder, or you can skip the embossing if you don't have issues. Honestly, even heat setting these inks, I find like they still smear on this cardstock for me. I wouldn't be surprised though if some of it's just a patience issue, if I stamp things and let them fully dry. But do I have patience? No. Do I have extra time? No. Heat embossing works. So I'm using the Clear Matte Dull because it just doesn't look embossed. It's just a personal preference. And also I switch between this or just using regular clear embossing powder, which will give more of that shiny finish. Just depends on the look I'm going for. This time, didn't want the shiny finish. So that's why I used the Clear Matte Dull. So I'd stamped, coated it with the embossing powder, set it aside, and then repeat till all 4 panels were stamped, had the embossing powder on them, and then I melted them all. Just back to back to back. And then I've got all these panels. So I'm using my big Altenew grip mat, and I've got the stencils here. And like all of Altenew's fabulous stuff, the info's on the stencil there. I was able to show it's got like etching details. It's got lettering to like this is A, B, C, D, etc. And then the packaging has the actual like layering guides, so I can mostly shut my brain off within reason. Still got to pay a little bit of attention, but I can kind of just like zone out and do my stenciling because it's satisfying. I really am loving the layering stencils. It's another one of those things that I also did not think that I was like, what's the big deal when these really started to make, an appearance in card making? I was like, really? Because I do love to color. I like to watercolor all the things. But I was like, so it's like, really, do I need these? No, I don't need them, but I do like them. I really just, I think it's also because I've been doing this for 20 years. And man, if little baby card maker me had stuff like this, I remember struggling back in the day, you know, to try and even get just a smooth blend with ink blending, you know, and our foam tools and the inks we had and all the struggles and learning to color with alcohol markers, you know, to get that smooth blend, you know, all that frustration back in the day. And now it's like, I can just slap a stencil on it, blend on some of these inks, and it's just done. I love it. I love it. So anyway, all my like reminiscing and rambling. I like them. I like the layering stencils. They're fun. So I'm using the Pocketful of Sunshine quad of fresh dye inks for the panel that I filmed. And I'm still on that yellow kick. Yellow is so cheerful. Will probably forever give me grief filming it and taking photos of it because, just editing the photos for these cards was a nightmare because the yellow just wants to go in the most bizarre directions. However, it's fun to create with, and in real life, it looks really pretty. So I just followed the guide and filled everything in, and I just went lightest to darkest with these yellow inks using my little Altenew mini blending brushes. And always, I say this, regardless of whether it's a floral set or anything, when it comes to layering stencil sets, it's definitely one of those things where you do it once, even though it's already laid out and you can kind of see how it's going to go. But once you do it once, it's like, okay, this makes sense. So I filmed this first go with these inks, and then the remaining panels I did just off camera. I was able to just zone out, you know, watch a show, listen to an audiobook, whatever, and just stencil to my heart's content, you know, and I end up with like all these gorgeous florals, which I'll show once I'm done with this one. So I worked my way through the yellows for the florals, and then the greenery, the exact same thing. You know, everything's lined up. It just kind of makes sense. Again, the layering guides kind of tell you, and they also give advice depending on what stencil, because sometimes it'll be like, oh, you need to rotate this, and it'll say in the layering guide like 35 degrees, whatever. It's like, oh, I just need to rotate it, and then you can see, because there's the etch details, and everything just lines up, you know, it just works, and I love it. So for the greenery, I'm using the Tropical Forest quad of inks and doing the same thing, just kind of working like lightest to darkest. And the stencils are set up that way as well for that to work. They do give like coloring guides as well if you want to if you really want to just fully follow, you know, everything as it's laid out, which is just another thing I like because, yeah, especially if you have a little, like, not as much time and it's like, I need to, you know, bust out a card really quick. It's like, just follow the directions. Do it. Use the colors they suggest, you know, no extra thought process required. I love it. I love it. And then next time you can go play and do whatever works for you. Because, yeah, sky's the limit. Options. I like options. So once I did the greenery, the flower centers I did with milk chocolate ink, or I did milk chocolate ink before because that was part of the stencil. And then this final stencil is the one that adds like the detail-y bits, which I've mentioned with other sets that I've used. You can always skip this stencil. That's one of my favorite parts is the parts that add the extra details, you know, because that's something, even with, you know, all my coloring skills, I say that with a bit of sarcasm, that is something I struggle with, you know, is doing something like that, you know, and only putting color in like small areas, etc. So like, look at that. I love it. I love it. It's so fun. So like I said, I did all different colors. It's so much fun. So the first one was that Pocketful of Sunshine, and then I did one in blue, and that's the Lapis Lazuli quad. So pretty. I love just switching up the colors and how it just completely changes like the look of it all. So I did the blue one. And then I did a pink set. So the pink set was the Bubblegum Dreams Fresh Dye Ink quad. Again, so pretty. Like, y'all, this girl in Saskatchewan is really tired of winter. I had so much fun making these. I was like, I wish that's what it looked like outside right now. It's all these pretty flowers. Anyway, last one was Shades of Purple. So the pink set and the purple set I didn't use in this video. I've set them aside. I just need more time, you guys. I need to make cards with those little panels. But I concentrated on just the yellow and the blue for this video. So I then took some white cardstock, and I'm going to emboss it with the embossing folder that's part of that kit. And with the Altenew embossing folders and my Anna Griffin Empress machine, I find that the cutting plate and the magnetic plate is what works to run it through and get my background embossed. So to switch it up a little bit, each of these panels I cut them larger than A2 sized just to give me a little bit of wiggle room depending on how I want to cut things down. And I put the cardstock, like the one I centered that door, and then the other one I kind of offset the door a little more to the side so that I can create a couple of different looks. So after I had embossed the cardstock, stick these to my grip mat, and then I'm going to use that stencil that coordinates. Love. And I just, more ideas than I have. I was like, ooh, I could use a stencil without the embossing folder, lay it out and just put embossing paste over that stencil. So then you get that raised brickwork. You could have so much fun with that. And you could like customize your embossing paste too, you know, tint it with different colors of ink. I need more time in the day, y'all. Anyway, I used my slightly larger blending brushes. These are the small, because the other ones they call mini, right? Yeah, the other ones are the mini size. These are the small size. And I'm using the Rock Collection fresh dye inks for these, and I'm not doing like an even blend. I was doing, you know, lighter and darker because I want that variation. I want that texture sort of look to it. So I went through and like I used the larger brush, and then I would take the smaller brush with the darker shades and just kind of smear it on, you know, swirl it on here and there to get those lighter and darker areas on all of this little stonework here. Love it. So went through, added the little darker bits. Everything I'll kind of smooth out as it dries anyway, but with something like this, I don't care. Like, I want that texture. I want that variation. That's what gives everything that little extra something. And once I've got the ink blended on, I also decided to add some splatter. So I was happy with the sort of darker shades on that first panel, so I went in and did the same thing with the second. And then for the splatter, I first laid the stencil, like I put the panel in my splat box and then laid the stencil over it just to kind of protect like the grout because I didn't want to get splatter on that. And then I smushed the darkest shade of the third shade, the Industrial Diamond Gray, onto a palette and then added my white gouache. And then I'm going to mix this together. So it's going to tint the white gouache to this gray shade. And I'm just using my little fan brush. I added a little bit of water too to thin it out. And then I'm going to splatter this on top of that stencil to create just that little splatter texture as well. So I can go a little heavier handed with this and have fun with it. Because yeah, see, so fun. Love it. So you guys know me and the splatter. I'll always try and find a way to squeeze that onto a card or two or 10, you know. This was actually me being light-handed because that's the only splatter I added. I didn't go in with 5 other types of splatter for once, but regardless, I had a lot of fun. So added splatter to the second panel, set those aside. And then I'm also using this fabulous, this is the Creative Cuts Old City Doors die set. Love it. Absolutely love it. Like, I will never not love florals. Like, I own that, you know, as some people are like, that's so boring. And I'm like, I'm boring. I'm okay with it. I love florals. I will never not love them in all sizes. Of course, I love my large florals, but I am loving just different things. So these doors, I love it. I love it. I was like, these are so fun. So I die cut all of these pieces with this die set from various colors of Altenew's cardstock. So for this blue door, I use sea glass for the base. And then the strips I used, this is ultramarine. And when I was adhering things, I wasn't really paying attention. Like I didn't butt the strips up against each other. That's why I had to flip it over and kind of trim off the excess because they were meant to be together. But it all works. It all works. Even you don't have to always follow like the directions, you know, to a T. Have fun with it. Especially you're building doors. Do whatever works for you. So I used all the different pieces to build this blue door. And so yeah, that was sea glass just on the back, which is kind of irrelevant. You're not going to see it. That was just the base to stick everything to. And then yeah, ultramarine, azurite, which was the darkest shade of blue, and Iceberg was this lighter shade that I'm adding these little like crossbar elements, whatever you want to call it. And I did skip the actual, there's little dies in the set that do like little door handles and everything too. Love. Didn't use those because I'm going to add sentiments and other things. And then for the little ornamental wafer die that's part of the Craft Your Life kit that I mentioned in the beginning, I put Altenew's like double-sided adhesive sheet on the back of that cardstock before I die cut it, and then all I had to do is peel off the backing so I can just pop that into place because that die was very like intricate and finicky. So it just saved me having to trace that with the liquid glue. And I did the same thing with the detail elements for this door, which I did with bright yellows. I want a door like this. And that's also what I have oh man, I used to subscribe to like the Architectural Digest magazine way back in the day. The younger version of me in the past life, I wanted to be an architect. That ship sailed, but you know, I can play architect with my paper and wafer dies like this. So I had so much fun. I had so much fun. So yeah, the little intricate details, same thing. I put the cardstock on some of the double-sided adhesive sheets, ran it through my die cut machine, and then could peel off the backing and then press these into place. It gives you more wiggle room. I don't work with the double-sided adhesive sheets much because I'm content with my liquid glue, but it does save some aggravation because you can kind of place things and without pressing them down, you know, you've got wiggle room. Whereas with liquid adhesive, once it's down, you still have wiggle room, but you know, it's going to smear if you're trying to move stuff around. So I built my little doors and then I just adhered them right on top of those embossed panels. Like, how fun is that? I love it. And then inside of my cards, my lighting completely changed between the first clip now and this, but whatever. I stamped the large florals onto the insides of my card bases, which are top folding A2 white note cards, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I stamped the florals with the lighter shades of the yellow and blue inks onto the insides of their cards. And then I adhered the embossed panels to the fronts of my cards. And then you saw me just hold the floral in place and then flip it over. And I use that as a visual guide as to where to place my adhesive. And then just press that into place, let the glue dry, and then I can just trim off the excess with my scissors. Obviously, I prefer making A2 size cards. That's just what I like to do. But these stamps, all of it, these are all definitely big enough. If you like to make the 5x7 cards, like big cards, heck yeah. You know, these will stand up nicely on those, which is awesome. I like cramming it all onto an A2 size card. That's just what works for me. And that's what I did. That one little piece that, you know, had trimmed off, I was like, ooh, I could just tuck that into the other side. Like, oh, I love this set. I was having so much fun with it, you guys. So I also stamped a couple sentiments from that set onto pieces of the white cardstock and then used the coordinating wafer dies to die cut them. And then I just trimmed, like I was using the leftover bits from the florals of cardstock to do my sentiments, and then I trimmed down little strips from those leftover bits to adhere behind to build up a little bit of dimension. Could have used a foam strip as well, whatever works. And then I'm going to adhere those directly to my card fronts, just like so. So this is why I skipped with the door handles, especially on this one, because this was kind of like in place of a door handle, because this little vertical sentiment. So got those into place, and then I'd also stamped companion sentiments from the set on the inside, which I'm going to show right now. These were I had so much fun, you guys. I know I've said that like 20 times. Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. And then, yeah, I've got those 2 extra florals left over for a couple other cards that when I eventually use them, I will post them like on my social media or something. We'll see. I haven't even touched them yet because I need more hours in a day. Anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!